From the Stampeders play-by-play and broadcast team, which we're going to be covering here on 620 CKRM, the West Semi-Final, Jock Wilson joining us from Calgary again on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline. Jock, I'm looking at the line here, and minus 4.5 Lions. That's probably where I thought it was going to be, but Coach Dickinson kind of is liking the underdog role here.
Hey, listen, the BC Lions are the hottest team in the Canadian Football League heading into the playoffs. They're at home. Of course, they're going to be the favorite. The Calgary Stampeders lost twice to the BC Lions this season, and the game in Calgary wasn't even close. Stampeders got their ass kicked. There's no other way to talk about it. So, should the Calgary Stampeders be an underdog? Of course they should. I love how TSN is already building this up. Revenge or redemption? Vernon Adams returns to Vancouver. Obviously, that is the storyline, Barney. And, VA... he went to Vancouver earlier this season, played okay, didn't play great. The Stampeders were better in the second half. I do think it's an interesting storyline. Nathan Rourke, we know, is the best player in the Canadian Football League right now. He is going to be the most outstanding player. And I think Vernon has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, and he wants to prove something. But the question is, can he or will he? Time will tell.
Is this game really going to come down to if Dedrick Mills can get going?
Listen, this is the biggest storyline for the Stampeders heading into this game is their offensive line. Their offensive line is a big question mark because they don't have a right tackle. Josh Coker is out with a knee injury. Preston Nickel is out with an ankle injury. I have no idea who is going to be the right tackle. The Calgary Stampeders signed an offensive lineman yesterday, Hunter Stewart, who played, BC, Edmonton, and Ottawa. He was released by the Lions in mid-August. I don't think he's going to be on the roster, but stranger things have happened, and this is what happened. If you watch the Calgary Stampeders in Edmonton last weekend, Dedrick Mills was really, really solid in the first half, but in the second quarter, Preston Nichols go down with an injury, and all of a sudden the running game wasn't as efficient. They didn't win the battles along the line, and that was a huge issue. So to answer your question, yes, Dedrick Mills is going to have to go off. Dedrick Mills is going to have to be, the Calgary Stampeders' best offensive player. He's going to have to rush for over 100 yards. But there are other storylines as well because, the Stampeder defense, has to be the turnover demons that they have been. The Stampeders, when they win the turnover battle, they're 11-0 this season, and that's something that they'll be looking to do this weekend.
Yeah, so let's talk about that because I think that's the other big thing is the Calgary defense on Nathan Rourke, and we talked about how hot they are and how much stock everyone's buying in BC. What does that Calgary defense have to do, or what wrinkle do they have to throw that maybe BC hasn't seen a lot of?
Remember the first half of the season when there was the big debate, who's got the best defense in the Canadian Football League, the Saskatchewan Roughriders or the Calgary Stampeders? And a lot of people were saying, hey, it was the Calgary Stampeders. And then the Stampeders forgot how to tackle. The Calgary Stampeders went on their 4-game losing streak, and they got lit up, time after time. The Stampeder defense has been better in their final 3 games. They have been causing the turnovers. They have been getting more pressure on the quarterback. And it does boil down, to a guy that was named an All-Star earlier today. And that, of course, is Clarence Hicks. He is the Stampeders nominee for the Most Outstanding Defensive Player award as well. He's not big, but he is quick. He is fast. He gets into the quarterback face. I think he is going to be a really, really key player for this team because he's got to put some pressure, obviously, on Nathan Rourke. The other rush end, that's going to be interesting because Lorenzo Malden was acquired by the Ottawa Redblacks. Hasn't played very much because he's been injured, but he's healthy. He could be on the roster this weekend. Sean Peterson is that other rush end with Flo Orimolade out. So, again, just a little bit of a wrinkle. The interior of the defensive line is good. Jalen Hutchins is one of the biggest studs in the Canadian Football League. And, of course, alongside a former rider, Miles Brown, I think they're good there. But the key is you got to corral Nathan Rourke because he can beat you with his feet, and he can certainly beat you with his arm. And the other, I guess, wild card for the Stampeders is Sheldon Arnold. The Calgary Stampeders started the season with 2 rookie halfbacks, Sheldon Arnold and Jaden Grant. They were the story for this team in the first half. Sheldon Arnold broke his hand, had some pins put in it. Still needs the surgeon's okay to actually take contact and maybe return. But, he's been taking some light practices. There's a chance that he could return this weekend. That could give the Stampeder defense a little bit of a boost, too.
Jock Wilson is joining us here from Calgary and QR77 and part of the Stampeders broadcast team. Now, maybe who's a player that we're not talking about offensively for Calgary that could go off? Like Damian Alford started the year. I know we were talking about him a lot here. Is there a player maybe on that offensive side that's kind of flying under the radar?
I would say Dominic Rhymes has to have a really, really big game. He has been targeted a lot, by Vernon Adams, and he has to be a go-to guy. The other guy that has gone under the radar because he wasn't supposed to be part of the receiving corps, but he got into the offense when Reggie Bagleton went down in week 2, and is done for the season, and that is Eric Brooks. I think all the receivers are going to have to play really, really well. Vernon Adams is going to have to go deep. He hasn't thrown any interceptions in the last few games. He has been managing the game very well, but he is going to have to stretch the BC defense. So to answer your question, I look at 3 receivers that really need to step up. Jalen Philpott, who didn't play last week because of an injury, but he is going to go. Had a little bit of a knee problem last week. He could have played last week if they needed him to. They didn't need him to. So Jalen Philpott, Eric Brooks, Dominic Rhymes, we'll see, because I think you got to give an edge to the BC receivers. They're just studs, and they are dominant.
Yeah, Brooks had 136 last week. So that was solid. Okay, before I let you go, can you handicap? Can you give me what your take is on the East? Davis Alexander, a lot of people loving what he's doing. Again, his first ever playoff start. Winnipeg's been a little bit odd this year, but they could still be Winnipeg, and that defense firing by committee. What do you think happens in the East?
Winnipeg sucks. They're done. The run is over. So, Rider fans will like to hear that. That's fine. Winnipeg has no chance, in my opinion, against the Montreal Alouettes. Montreal is the best team in the East. If you ask me to seed it right now, I think Montreal is a better team than the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And Davis Alexander speaks for itself. They let Cody Fajardo go, or at least traded him away, because they knew Davis Alexander was the next thing in Montreal. And 11-0 as a starter, he is a stud. And I do think that defense is sometimes underrated as well. So I don't think Montreal is going to have any issues with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I think they're a 5.5-point favorite. Yeah. And if you ask me heading into the playoffs, and this may not play well for Rider fans, but I would say BC and Montreal are your 2 favorites probably to go to the Grey Cup game. Although I will say this about Saskatchewan. Their first half, last week they looked really, really good with the starters in there. And the storyline in Calgary, we thought, oh, God, is Jake Mayer going to let us down again? And sure enough, Jake let us down again because he couldn't win that game for us. So anyway, I give Jake a little bit of a shot there. But hey, the Riders should be happy with their team, especially the way they played in the first half, even though they head into the playoffs on a 2-game losing streak.
Hey, we could be talking again next week about the Stamps coming in here and that record
The one kryptonite Trevor Harris has is the Calgary Stampeders. So look out. Calgary can't beat Nathan Rourke. The Saskatchewan Roughriders can't. At least Trevor Harris can't seem to beat the Calgary Stampeders. So and Nathan Rourke can't beat Winnipeg. So I think that's really kind of crazy.
Okay, quickly before I let you go, we've been talking about this on the show all day, just with what we're seeing. And you've covered sports for a long time. You've been around with Shohei Ohtani and just being able to do what he can do as an athlete. When you think, Jock, an athlete that comes to mind that you saw with your eyeballs, whether live or on TV, that you just thought, I don't think what this guy's doing is ever going to be replicated again. Who comes to mind?
Boy, that is $1 million question, and you're right. He is such a unique animal. You remember the Men in Black movies? Like, hey, dude's an alien, and I don't think he's human. So, Travis Hunter playing both sides in college football and in the NFL, you don't see that happen very often. Obviously, Bo Jackson comes to mind. Michael Jordan comes to mind off the top of my head. Yeah. All unique players that can do it all, and those would be right up there. But I think Shohei is in the league of his own. Although who won the battle last night. Vladdy got Shohei's number last night, so I think for Blue Jay fans that was okay.
Okay, always a pleasure. Looking forward to the weekend. It's going to be really intriguing. Have a good rest of the week, and good luck to your Stamps. Hopefully we can catch up next week.
Hey, thanks for picking up our broadcast. Mark Steven and Greg Peterson, the longest-serving play-by-play team in the Canadian Football League. They're like a married couple. They've been together for over 30 years, so there you go.